And joining me now to talk more is Alex Zdan, GOP political strategist and former U.S. Senate candidate. I'm also joined by Antoine Seawright, Democratic strategist and founder and CEO of Blueprint Strategy, LLC. Thank you both for joining us on a Saturday. We really appreciate it. Antoine, let's start with you. You know, Biden is in New York today for a campaign fundraiser. He's leading in New York by 8%. That's down just 1% compared to May. So what do you think? What's causing him to slip in the polls? Obviously, we're just all recovering from the last few days here in New York. But what do you say about that?
Well, I certainly don't think it's slippage in the poll. I think the president is not taking any territory or any constituency for granted. And so he's showing up in places. He is not just on the map as president. Democrats up and down the ballot are on the map. New York is battleground zero for Democrats. If we want to take back the majority and clean up the House, if you will, that would make Hakeem Jeffries the first African-American speaker. And so all the stakes are high. Everything is on the line. Everything is on the ballot, including basic fundamental freedoms as we know them. And so the president is doing what he's supposed to do. He is rallying the troops, raising money. You mentioned the $27 million he raised both pre and post the debate the other night. That's a sign of a very unified Democratic Party coming together to defeat extremism that's going to be on the ballot in November.
Yeah, I was out at one of his events yesterday here in New York, and a lot of Biden supporters saying, look, he had a rough night the other night at the debate, but they're still standing by. Alex, you know, Trump and the RNC reportedly entered June with nearly $23 million more than Biden and the DNC. So let's stick with the numbers here. How important are those funds as we enter the final months of the campaign? They all have a lot of money, but when we kind of were looking at those numbers, 212 to 235, what do you see?
Well, every dollar is obviously crucial in a presidential election that relies a lot on television advertising, especially in the very expensive New York City market where we are right now, where those polling numbers are drawn from. Obviously, President Trump has been able to close the fundraising gap with President Biden and, in fact, lap him. I would suggest to President Biden that if he wants to get his poll numbers up, perhaps being convicted of a felony in a politically motivated trial, as President Trump just went through, might be a way just to goose those numbers up. But obviously, there is enthusiasm for President Trump on the Republican side. There was before the debate. There is now. And I wonder if that enthusiasm is flagging on the Democratic side. Perhaps those donors in the Hamptons are not going to wish that they paid in advance. They might want their money back.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. You're right, though. He's got a couple of big events, and they are looking for big dollars there. Antoine, let's take a look at what's happening with new polling data from the Jewish Electoral Institute, because we're showing that 67% of Jewish Americans still choose Biden over Trump. So when we take a look back at this, how is his handling of the Israel-Hamas war impacting his support from Jewish American voters? We've heard some mixed reviews.
Well, first and foremost, I think the president has been very clear about his positioning when it comes to handling any conflict, in particular this particular conflict. And at the end of the day, this election is a binary choice. And what these polls indicate is that regardless of the constituency umbrella you fall in, Jewish American, et cetera, you're more than likely going to think that President Biden is the best person to do the job for the next 4 years. And the fact of the matter is, while his position has been very clear, so has the opposition. So has Donald Trump and the extremist Republican Party. And I think that scares the living hell out of some people, and that's reflective in the polls. My dear friend on the other side mentioned about people may not want to pay their money in advance. The fact of the matter is you're going to see the country and the party consolidate in ways that you all did not expect, because the name of the game in politics is survive and advance. Most people understand this process is a marathon, not a sprint, and direction is more important than speed. That's why the June debate does not determine the outcome of a November election.
And as we talk about Biden and his movements this weekend, I'm just pointing out to our viewers that we're looking here in New York. We're looking at his ride, getting ready to go to the Hamptons, and we're keeping a close eye on that. We've got a camera there, obviously, and we're watching those movements. We'll let you know as he is on the move. Alex, let's talk about the debate for a second. I want to play some sound and get your thoughts on the other side.
He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
I've never heard so much foolishness.
Okay, so what do you think? Is Trump using the war to try and gain support with Jewish Americans? Is it working?
Well, it certainly should use that topic because the President Biden, has, of course, backed off his support of Israel, holding up weapons shipments and questioning the Netanyahu government. I don't think the president's being a very good ally to Israel now, and there is an opportunity among Jewish voters for President Trump to show his staunch support of Israel. I also think that when we look at these polling numbers, New York and New Jersey have the 6th and 7th highest number of Palestinian Americans in this country. Perhaps the anger on the left among Palestinians towards President Biden is causing this polling slip. He's really getting it on both sides right now.
Antoine, I want to give you the last word.
Well, I think that is a prime example of not having a relationship with the truth. No disrespect to you, my dear friend, but the president is catching hell within his own party because he's had a solid relationship with Israel throughout this entire process, but he has actually walked, I think, a good balance in terms of doing what's right and doing what I think the American people really want him to do on this issue. The fact of the matter is your party and your candidate for president cannot even relate to the issues going on. And that's why the poll numbers are reflective the way they are. Just because a person says it does not make it true. And we've seen the president regurgitate a bunch of foolishness on the debate stage last night. And we saw the American people respond. Independents broke towards Joe Biden. The $27 million is another reflection of that.
All right, Alex, I take it back. Alex, I'm going to give you a second to respond. Alex, go ahead, real quick.
I mean, when he was talking about foolishness on the debate stage, I think he was probably talking about President Biden's incoherency. I think that at least President Trump can put together a strong defense of the plans that he has to take the country forward.
Well, they were lies.
All right.
They were lies.
Okay, you guys.
They're the truth. Once he gets in the Oval Office, they'll be his truth.
Alex Zdan and Antoine C. Wright, we want to thank you very much for your time. We'll have you back. We'll get into it more a little bit later. Thank you both very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. And in less than 1 hour.